Hey, what is going on, guys? This is CodedSteele, and welcome back to a new series which I'm going to be starting that's going to cover the App Inventor interface. So, I apologize, guys. I've been kind of bouncing around between different tutorials. I haven't stayed really consistent for a while. I do plan on completing this series fairly quickly, and then I'm going to return to some of my circuit tutorials and some of my hobby projects that I want to show you guys that I've been building. So, first thing we need to do, and a quick note for you guys, my computer's performance, I'm running two very powerful pieces of software right now, and it's causing my computer to be a little laggy, so you're going to have to hang with me. I apologize for that. I will try to eventually, I'm going to try to get a more powerful computer, but this is what I have to work with right now. But anyway, we're going to go to AI2, we type in AI2, App Inventor, or you can just Google it, and you'll find MIT's App Inventor software. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that, and it's going to transport us to this website, and it's going to ask us, it's going to say, welcome to MIT App Inventor, yada 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 stuff. So cool. Here we are in the App Inventor interface, and I don't know why it started out in this project. That's not what I want to do. What it will do usually when you go into this program and when you come into it for the first time, if you don't have a Gmail or a G account, some kind of Google Plus account, you're going to need to register for a Google account in order to be able to use this software. It's not that big a deal. It takes a few seconds. It's a small price to pay for the, and you don't even have to pay for it. It's obviously that was an expression, but it's free. You just sign up, and then you get to use this very nice piece of software, which is going to allow you to create your own Android apps. So when you get in here, like I said, you're going to have to register, blah, blah, blah. Once you get done with that, you can start a new project. And I'm going to start a new project. I'm going to name it Test right now. So that'll take us to a brand new screen. This is what your interface is going to look like. After you name your project, you're going to be brought into an interface that looks like this. So now that we're in this interface here, what is all this stuff here on the side? What can all this stuff do? All of that, nonsense and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to go through each and every single one of these things. First of all, you have this palette window over here. The palette window is basically a bunch of stuff that you can place into your app. Sensors, layouts. You can see we got all the stuff here. You got user interface stuff, which we'll get into all that stuff eventually. You have layout stuff, which is like horizontal arrangements and table arrangements and stuff. Media, like playing sounds and junk like that, or even recognizing your voice or saying something. Drawing and animation stuff. Some sensors. Some social stuff, which is like emails and junk with Twitter and whatever else. Storage stuff, which is like if you want to store stuff on the internet or blah blah blah. Connectivity stuff, which is Bluetooth client, Bluetooth server. Web stuff, which is some of the more advanced stuff we'll get into later. And then you got this Lego Mindstorms crap down here, which I honestly could care less about. Basically, the windows I'm going to teach you how to use are going to be the connectivity window, storage, social, sensors, drawing and animation, media, layout, and user interface windows of this program. So over here you can see this is your screen layout. This is how it's going to look on your app. This is what your app is going to look like. This is what you're going to see. So right now you can see we have a blank screen. We're going to fix that here in a few seconds. And then over here you have the component section. The component section, when you drag something and you place it in here, it's going to appear under your component section over here. I'm pointing at the screen thinking, yeah, you guys can see my finger. But this is where your components are going to pop up. So anything like a button, checkbox, notifier, blah, 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 it's all going to show up on this screen over here. And then we've got properties. Pretty much everything has a property that you can modify of it. And we'll go through all of that stuff later. It's whatever else. But enough chatter and stuff like that. Let's kind of go through, and I'm going to teach you guys some basic stuff, and we're going to go ahead and create a little basic interface here. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag a button onto the screen. Okay, cool. You know, now there's a button on the screen. All right, that's pretty awesome, right? I mean, if I went ahead and I compiled this into a program now and loaded it onto my tablet, that's what I would see. I would see, you know, a button on the screen. And cool, you know, and all. As you can see over here, like I said, I dragged it. The button shows up in the components section. And under here we have a bunch of different parameters for background color, whether it's enabled or disabled. If I click disabled, if I click the enable block, it disables it. So now the box would not, or the button would not be visible on the app screen. It's visible here, but if I load my app, it will not be visible. So I want it to be visible. I can change like the font that's inside of it to bold or italic, or bold and italic if I wanted to. I can change the font size. If I alter the font size, we're going to change it back to 14. It's also going to change the button size, just so you guys are aware of that. I'm going to keep it at the 14 that it was at. That's a good size for the text of a button. And if you even wanted to, you could load your own image into the button. Instead of having words or something like that, you could have an image displayed inside of the button. Something I really don't use too much of. I don't know. And then you get the text color, and then the length and the width of the button that you can set. I pretty much just leave them the same size as the text that needs to fit inside of them. So, what are we going to do here? Well, what I'm going to do, I have a button on the screen. The other thing I'm going to drag in here is a fairly simple element. I'm going to drag the label element into the screen. Now, the label is just that. I can edit the label personally by going over here into text and typing in a word like hello or helo, helo, and it's going to appear on the screen just like that. And alternately, or the same thing, I can change the text for the button. It's fairly simple stuff to do. Right now, I'm going to leave it actually to where this text displays 0 by default. We're going to make a counter for our first project. It's a fairly simple thing to do, so I figure, you know, this is a very good way to introduce us to, you know, how to actually do something with the App Inventor interface. This is going to be a very long tutorial, guys. It probably will go to about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, just because I got to go through all of this stuff, and I want to make things a little more complicated as we're going along. But we have a label now. We have text. We have a button in the program now. So we're going to go ahead now, and I'm going to create our very first simple program. We're going to go into the blocks editor. Now, this is a totally different interface. There's two parts to creating your app. This is the designer for, you know, making it look pretty and whatever else. And actually, one other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add in a horizontal arrangement. And all the horizontal arrangement does is I can drag my button into here, and then I can drag that label into here. And it's going to just place them side by side. It looks a little more pleasing to the eye, I guess, to see it like that. So that's why I'm doing that. You can see, well, maybe it doesn't look pleasing to you, but it does to me, I guess. So that's why I did that like that. Just going under layout, grabbing onto horizontal arrangement, and then dragging the two elements into the horizontal arrangement will do that. I could change different elements of the horizontal arrangement. I could change how many rows and columns there are, or no, that's just in the table. Sorry, that's the table arrangement. You can do that, not the horizontal arrangement. My bad. The horizontal and the vertical are pretty much fixed. The table arrangement, you can choose how many rows and how many columns and stuff like that. But cool enough, this is what we need for this little thing, just placing a button, a label, and the horizontal arrangement. Now back to the box editor. Alright, here is essentially the logic of your program, where the logic of your program is constructed. Now, this might seem kind of daunting, like maybe you guys don't like programming or something like that. I don't know. This is a lot easier than having to go through and write a bunch of text and you know, and then all of a sudden you compile the program and you have no idea what the program is telling you. It says error line 19 Java lang illegal use of ampersand or something like that. You know, what the heck does that even mean? This is a lot more friendly with telling you what your problem is, and a lot of times your problems are fairly obvious. It doesn't take you very long to figure out what the problem actually is. So, anyways, moving on here, I told you guys what we were going to do is we're going to build a counter. So when I click, these are, you guys can see over here, we have the control, logic, math, text, lists, colors, variables, procedures. We're going to get into all that stuff later, all that good stuff. But you guys can also see the elements that were present in the Designer Components menu are eligible for use in the Blocks menu here. So what's up with that? You guys can see when I click on that, a bunch of stuff shows up in the little viewer panel here, and I can scroll down, and there's just a bunch of good little stuff here. So this is what is called an event handler, basically. So when a button is, or when this button that we created is clicked, it calls this event handler. And then in an event handler, you can place a bunch of elements that you want to be handled, so to speak. So you can place, whenever the button's clicked, I want to do something. Okay, what do I want to do? That all the do stuff goes in this do section here. So anything that looks like this has a yellow block, no puzzle. You guys will see what I'm talking about in a second. Here, actually, just to make it easier on myself here. Let's see here. Set label dot text. See how this little text has an indent on the top of it? This is not an event handler at all. This is like a control statement that's going to say I'm going to set blah blah blah. It controls the program flow. It's a condition, or it's some kind of a logic element that happens when the button is clicked. So event handlers are hierarchical. They are the top level of the program. When something happens, the event handler is triggered, and when the event handler is triggered, then the program will allow other stuff to execute. So right now, the way this sits, I click the button, it's going to do absolutely nothing. This block outside all on its own can't do anything. But when I plug this into this socket here, which you kind of hear, and you hear a clicking noise, that means the blocks are compatible, and it links up. When I plug that in there, what you're going to see happen is it's going to accept it, number one, and now actually if I click the button, it might, well, it still won't do anything, but it's going to get ready, or it has the potential now to actually do something when the button is clicked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take label1.text, and then I'm going to say, just kind of follow with what I'm doing here for a second. I went and grabbed label1.text under the label here. Label1.text, this block right here is going to return whatever the value is in the label1.text block. Okay? And actually, I don't want equals. I don't know why that grabbed equals. I wanted the plus block. This is an addition block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this return whatever the number is, and I'm going to add 1 to it. So now I'm going to explain what this does. This is very, very, very simple. When the button is clicked, I'm going to set label 1, which is this here, to its previous value. Why are these ads popping up? To this previous value plus 1. And I'm going to store that in there. And then if I push it again, it'll have the 1 value still stored, and then it'll add 1 plus 1 to 2. So basically, I click the button, and it's going to continuously go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up to however many numbers it can possibly hold, which I don't even know what the max number is. Depends on how many bits this thing is. I'm sure it's a really high number, probably way more than you could ever count to in your entire life. And like I said now, until I got off on that weird little tangent, is like I said, this is a fairly simple program. So now we want to actually build our program, and we want to run it, so I can actually show you guys, that I'm not just blowing steam, and this actually will do something. So to do this, we need to run what's called the AI companion. So we connect up here, and you can actually run the emulator. You could download an emulator, and you can connect to the emulator. It's very sluggish and very slow, and whenever you're building these things, I don't recommend using it. It's not going to be very helpful for you. So I'm going to select the AI companion, and it's going to show up this little QR code or this other code. On your tablet, you're going to want to download something called MIT AI2 Companion, and you can just Google that in the store here. Oh, where's my stuff? There's my screen. Yay. You guys can see it's this little app right there. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to touch that. It's going to open that up on my screen. And then what you're going to see is some stuff popping up on the screen. I'm going to scan my QR code here. And it's going to mess with my screen and screw me over. Let's scan this first. So now I scan the QR code. It's going to pop up. And it's going to do stuff in a second, hopefully. There it is. Yay! Now give me my program. That'll do something as soon as you're done loading. Yay! Alright. Okay. So now my program is loaded up. Now what we should see happen is, and ignore, do you like my fancy name for my button? Just named it text for button 1. I didn't change it. You could do that if you want to or whatever. But now we should see that when I click this button, you guys just saw it change to a 1. If I continuously click it as many times as I click it, which I cannot possibly click it fast enough, and you guys are seeing it lag a little bit on your end, sorry, but that's the limitations of the software I'm using. You can just see it continuously counting. Let's see if we can get to 100. Come on. Yeah, look at that. We're at 100. All right. There you go. You can see it's a little basic button. Button 1, add or 100, blah, blah, blah. Cool. All right. Cool enough. All right. We have a little thing that happens here. Awesome. What if we wanted to make our program a little more complicated? We're going to use one other parameter of the button clicker here, and we're going to do button 1 dot long click. There we go, long click. Awesome. So, and instead of adding 1, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to change the operation to subtraction operation. And there isn't an easy way to do that without actually taking these labels out and dragging them into here, which is stupid. But that's whatever. So now we have 2 operations that can occur here. If I click it if I just hold down the button for like less than a second and go up, it's going to add 1. If I hold down the button for about maybe a second, maybe a little more than a second, you see the button kind of like turn orange, it's going to subtract 1. Let's see, it should auto update the thing. I should be able to show you guys. So if I hold down the button, you guys just saw it subtract 1. Subtract 1, subtract 1, subtract 1. If I click it, I can add it back up. I could do this forever, obviously, to get back down to 0, and it would just take me a trillion years. But that is essentially the long click. So you guys can see, maybe if you had an app, say you were creating an app or something like that, and you're going to have a bunch of, you had a limited amount of space, and you didn't want to make your app scrollable. You actually weren't interested in making your app scrollable. You kind of run into a bit of a problem when you maybe need a bunch of stuff on the screen, like you have characters moving around or something, or you need to add a control interface, and maybe you want one button to be able to perform the same actions. Well, that's where click and long click could come in handy for you. You can make it to where, rapid fire is the long click. If you hold it down, like maybe you're making a little gun game or something, if you click it once, your person's going to fire 1 bullet at a fixed speed. But maybe if they're holding it down for a long click, you can increase the speed at which they're firing, or I don't know, something kind of like that. Just to give you guys kind of a real-world example of how this could come in handy for you. And then you can also see under this stuff we have got focus, indicates the cursor moved over the button, so now it's possible to click. So you can have an event even trigger around something like that, over the button, over you just hovering the mouse over a button. A lost focus is when you pull it off of the button. Then you can even correspond to touchdowns. So if I push down on the button, I can make an event happen, and then when I release the button, I can make an event happen. So let's actually do that. That would be really pretty interesting. Let's see, what can we do with that really quick? Just to add a little bit more, you know, flavor, I guess, to our app. This is going to be kind of stupid because basically it's just going to add one and subtract one when I move it up and or pull it up and pull it down, but whatever. But you guys can kind of see this happen on the app too, what the touch up and touch down buttons do. So you should see it when I touch down. It's going to, what is it going to do? It's going to add one. Touch down, it's going to add one. Or not. Okay, this stuff is kind of blowing up in my face. Blowing up in my face. Blowing up in my face. Indicates that a button was pressed down. Okay, what is, when the heck am I? Maybe you have to have this in here still? I don't know. Yeah, you do. Okay, that was something I didn't actually know. You have to have the button one.click event enabled in your thing. Otherwise, your button's technically not clickable. Interesting. Okay, but as you guys can see here, now I push it down, it adds one. I release, it subtracts one. Push down, adds one, release. Kind of a pointless program because it's impossible for you to ever even move. You're going to add one, you're going to subtract one instantaneously. So, but it just kind of shows you a little bit more of the functionality of, you know, whatever. Like maybe when you touch down, you're going to make your character continuously move, and then when you release it, the button, then they're going to stop moving or something like that. That would be maybe an example of a better example for how you could use something like this. So I don't know. That's just a simple button introduction and label introduction, which are two of the most basic elements. Next time we're probably going to move into like if statements, and we're going to make our thing a little bit more complex, maybe add some new buttons and some new labels, maybe mess with some color stuff. I don't know. I'll have to figure out what we're going to do for the next tutorial. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, ask me questions about stuff, you know, or maybe I can clarify for you something that I wasn't able to clarify for you really well talking to you now. And I will see you guys in your next App Inventor tutorial.